It is done. Finally, Scenic 2 is available for everyone. And so this is the best point to provide the tutorial that I already mentioned in the sneak peek. And if you want to see this, stay tuned. Everyone, and welcome to this new episode and to my big Scenic 2 tutorial. Some of you might be totally scared when you look at the runtime of this video, but I promise I find a solution how you don't need to look the whole video, but find a way to just pick up the topics that you are interested in. And maybe you're even interested in everything, so feel free to watch the full video. So I thought about it quite a while, but I don't want to bother people that are not interested in Scenics for weeks and weeks with few parts of this tutorial, whatever. And on the other hand, I also don't want to keep the people that are interested waiting for weeks and weeks for the next episode to come up. So I think the best thing is really to put it all in one big video, and for you to be able to directly skip to a point where you want to see a certain topic. I will add a list of topics in the video description, so you will find the different topics that I'm talking about. I give a timestamp where to find it, and I also will provide a link behind it that will directly bring you to this timestamp, so you can skip the parts that you are not interested in and directly jump to the ones that you want to see. The video will be in two main blocks. The first one is where I really show you around completely through the apps, try to show all the options that you have, all the capabilities to plan a route, to import stuff, and so on and so on. And the second big block is then directly here on the motorcycle, navigating using the app, and try to show you all the options that you have during navigation. So I think without further ado, I will show you around, but this is something I will do at home.
So here we are in the new Scenic 2 app, and I will try to show all the functions from left to right with just one exception, and this is the settings menu, and this is what I want to start with. And we can directly start with the appearance. So in appearance we can set up first of all the usual distance and speed unit stuff to match with our country. We have a setting for dark mode, so the Scenic 2 supports dark mode. I switched it to never, as I usually don't ride in the dark, so for me dark mode doesn't make sense. During the day I prefer the normal regular one. Then we have two options to switch on the display of a compass on the map, as well as the map scale, and both of the settings might be quite helpful during navigation, especially when you switch the scale of the map manually to see on what level you are at the moment. And the compass might be quite helpful because the default setting is that the map is turning with your driving direction, and so you can always see, okay, which is the northern direction based on this compass setting. The map language, in this case I switched to my native language, which is German. This is really only the language of the map, not the instructions. Next we have some settings for the regular mode and dark mode. For both of them we can switch between certain map styles. We have several dark ones in it and several light ones. And usually I just use the regular one so far. There is this outdoor one which might be helpful for people looking for smaller roads beside the main ones, might be helpful. As mentioned, I stay on the regular one so far, and then you can mainly determine some colors for the different lines on the map. The same thing you can do for the dark mode, and in general is also feasible to let's say select a light map in dark mode. If this is helpful, I don't know, but in the end you can change it to whatever you like, and again also the different colors of the lines that are shown on the map. And then we come to really interesting, or the first interesting element of this settings, which is navigation and tracking. And first element is show trail, and this means it really shows the line or a certain line for the tracked road that you have ridden already. So you can see with this, and if we take a look at the settings from dark mode, usually it's a green dotted line that you see on the map where you realize, okay, this is the part of the route that you already visited, let's say. Might be quite helpful, especially when you get turned around and stuff like this, or a little bit got lost due to roadblocks or whatever, that you can see, okay, this is the part of the route that I already had, and which one is the one ahead, let's say. Pause tracking if not moving. It's quite helpful to save some battery, as it stops the GPS signal, I think, even. Beside, yeah, tracking unnecessary track points or over time, whatever. Show speed limit, I set it to always, which means you will by default see this speed limit sign in the bottom left corner, and if there is no current speed limit, then it's just a dash in it or whatever, or it's empty, something like this. But this way you always get the speed limit that is indicated by the map data. So hopefully it's right, but sometimes it's also not accurate, let's say. You can switch this to never show the speed limit, or only when you exceed the current speed limit. As mentioned, I set it to always. Then speeding alerts, and this is quite a helpful thing for me, that you have a difference between in city and outside of city. So you can set two different thresholds and two different behaviors regarding if you want to have a visual alert or a spoken alert, or both. So usually I prefer to just get a visual alert for this one, and the spoken ones, they are more annoying for me, or you get distracted when they appear out of nothing, because usually you are not speeding on purpose, let's say. So this is quite helpful that you can make a difference. Then we have this auto zoom setting, which is set by default to normal, and this is quite important when you use the next levels or the next setting, show zoom buttons. So show zoom buttons allows you to manually zoom in and out of the map, and this zoom level stays like this. So it's not like when you use your fingers to pinch into the map or whatever, then it returns to the normal zoom level. If you switch it via this zoom buttons, they are like semi-transparent buttons on the map during navigation, and when you switch the zoom level using this one, then it stays like this. So this might be again helpful for some people who wants to see a little bit of the surrounding of the current track that you are riding, to see if there are nice alternatives left or right to your current road. But when you then hit a certain intersection where you get an instruction to turn left or right, then this zoom into the map is always relative to your current zoom level. And if you zoomed out, then it might be that you not zoomed in enough to really see what's the right way to drive, for example, especially when the instructions are not really clear or whatever, and you try to see it on the map. So this is when you might want to change this zoom level to more or less, depending on what zoom level you have manually picked using this zoom buttons. The next big thing for me in the settings menu is the detour behavior. usually or in the past with my navigation tests and with other tests that I heard as well or watched as well, it became clear for me that there are really two types of users for navigation apps. One kind of users really are keen about going back to the route when they left it accidentally or whatever, so that they really get navigated back to the point where they left the route, so they don't miss anything of their planned route or whatever. And the other kind of people are the ones who really are annoyed by the navigation application that continuously tries to turn them around and bring them back to a certain point when they can't get back for whatever reason, or when they left the route for a purpose. And in this case you can switch in Scenic to this behavior. The default one is go back, so it really tries to get you back to the point where you left the planned route, and the option for this one is recalculate, so it just tried to get you back to the route on a different track or whatever. And one special thing regarding the go back behavior is that you still get an option to switch to recalculate for one time only, or for this particular case when it says okay, it's recalculating, then you see a button on the top of the screen saying recalculate, and then you can hit this button and you kind of override the go back behavior for this one case to switch to recalculate and find an alternative route. This button is also just shown for a certain period, so you get a little countdown bar at the bottom of this button, and after a certain period of time it will be automatically hidden. So the detour behavior is really a nice setting for me. That makes a difference. The next one I more or less keep for later, so Viapoint Pro Mode. This is actually something that I fought for quite a while with Guido, and I think it's a nice thing. What exactly it is about, it's mainly how the vias are handled. So one other big thing in Scenic for me is that Scenic makes a difference between a via and a stop. And by default, you usually just see the stops in the map and on the navigation screen or whatever, and the vias are more or less kind of hidden elements in the background that make sure that you are really going a certain direction, a certain route that normally should be a quite nice one to ride. But sometimes it might be really interesting to see this one, and this is what you can do with the Pro Mode, let's say. I will go into some details later on, latest when we touch the real navigation screen on the bike. Then we have some settings where you can define two shortcuts. So shortcuts was one of the new features in the last iOS version, and with this one you can just configure two of the buttons on this kind of a button screen. I don't know what's the exact name for this one, and you can connect two of these buttons with custom functions that you used to have during your navigation, which might be helpful for you. Then we have sound and haptics. In this case the sound effects are quite nice. I used to switch them off because for me it's a little bit too much. Once you hear them, or when you hear it once, it's quite nice, but if you have it all the time, so for me it's not really needed, so usually I switch it off. We have a haptic feedback, which means the device is also vibrating, for example, when there is a certain message. Then we have voice and language, and this is really a selection of both, so you need to make sure that you not only pick the voice by name, but also make sure that it's really from the right section, let's say, which means from the right language that you want to use. So in my case, again, I use the German voice and the German directions in this case. I guess I will switch this one later on to English so that you get the right instructions when we have some recordings directly on the bike with the navigation messages. You can also configure voice volume and the voice speed. I guess self-explaining stuff. Interrupt spoken audio. Honestly, I never tested this one. I always leave it on. I think it's about that the sentences can be interrupted if there is another message that is newer and more current. As mentioned, I always switched it on. This beep before instruction is, from my side, I think a quite nice trick to get around some issues with some of the intercom systems that you have usually in your helmet to get the navigation instructions. Some of them are quite slow regarding switching on and giving directions from the navigation app. Some just need to switch from music playing to this one, and it could happen that you miss the beginning of the instruction. And with this nice little trick, just having a short beep before the real instruction is sent, let's say, it gives the intercom system a little pre-warning time to switch the channel, let's say, and so usually you get all the instructions currently or correctly on your speakers in the helmet. Route recalculation sound, I think it's also quite helpful, especially as you normally should not look on the navigation screen all the time when you are driving. So sometimes you might left the planned route by accident and didn't realize it, and so in this case it's quite nice that you get a little sound when the application is starting to recalculate the route, and then you can pay some attention on the screen. Voice output is meant to be switched between Bluetooth and the internal device speaker. The default handling is that it is picked by the operating system. So iOS is choosing if there is a Bluetooth device, then it sends it to the Bluetooth device. If there is none, then it sends it to the internal speaker. With the other two options, you just can force it to go into a certain direction. Then we have settings for the photo. In this case, it's only to enable the photos also to be saved in the photos library. So by default, when you add a photo during the route in your recording of the route, let's say, then it's only stored within the record of this route tracking, let's say, and with this one you can also store it all the time also in the regular photo library. Connectivity will just send you to the regular iOS settings for the mobile data setup, so you can configure if Scenic is able to use mobile data or not. Usually Scenic should not use so much data on a mobile, because you can save the maps offline, and the only data that are sent and received are either search requests for certain locations, or for example if you request a curvy route from kurviger.de. Finally, we have this remote control section, and currently there's only one remote control supported, which is the Wonderlink. I think it's a BMW related one, so I don't have one, so I can't tell anything about it. And that's it for the settings, and we can switch to the first real section of the functionality of Scenic. And here we are with the first real function of Scenic, so it's the Me area, and this gives you first of all a little overview of your most important statistics. There is a little kind of a rating from Scenic rating your profile into a certain level, let's say. You get some more statistics about your monthly and weekly riding behavior and statistics that you have in this one. And then the more important area is the premium and offline maps, of course, because here you can see really what kind of maps you have purchased, what you can use, and what's your subscription status. The important thing is that maps are still bought only or paid only by credits. So if you do a premium subscription, this only includes some other behaviors and for example the spoken instructions during navigation, but the maps are always paid using credits. By default, a user gets 20 credits if he creates a Scenic account, let's say, and this should be enough to get at least the map of your country. If you want to have more maps, then it might be necessary that you buy additional credits to get it, but the maps are yours forever, let's say. So even if you bought already once or maps in Scenic 1, then they are still valid for Scenic 2 and you can just download them. And this whole download and purchasing stuff happens in this offline maps on device section. Here you get overview at the top of the screen saying okay, which or how many maps you have already purchased and downloaded on the device, and then you just select your area, and here you can see, let me just pick one more, let's say a small one, Luxembourg for example. In this one credit, I have 34 still. I say proceed. Okay, and if I'm fast enough, I can see there is a little download indicator and the map is automatically downloaded and it's now stored on my device. So now you have an additional map. Then you have your account section where you can change your settings like your nickname, your email address, stuff like this, change your password or log off from your account on this device. And that's actually already everything in the Me section. Next up is the vehicle section, and this one has become quite popular in navigation apps or anything related to motorcycles and cars, to have this kind of a garage and show what you have. But this also provides a little additional benefit. So if you click on your motorcycle, you get again some basic statistic on your motorcycle and driving behavior, and this is really also fed by the tracking that you enable during navigating a route. So any tracked route is also automatically added to the statistics, and again you can see a more detailed statistics based on yearly, monthly, weekly information, and you can watch what has been collected during riding. But there's also this kind of a history section that you can use to add additional information or keep a kind of a log of your vehicle. So you could consider to add information when you change tires, change a chain, all this kind of stuff, and you can use it if you like for having a little log of your motorcycle. And finally you have the edit section, and this is actually also what will be asked if you create a new motorcycle. So you ask for the brand and model, as well as the year. You can give a little comment, and there is already a setting for full tank range. At the moment this is not yet used in Scenic in the application, but Guido already mentioned that there will be in future a little suggestion based on your full tank range for tank stops along your route, and I'm already looking forward for this feature. At the bottom we have this usual little issue that you might run into a little trap. So this red X is not closing the screen, it's really deleting the vehicle. So you need to use this little back arrow on the navigation to go back to the overview screen, and at the bottom there is this button to add another vehicle. Before we dive into the right section, I want to highlight a small but for me quite important feature, and it's hidden in the list. So in general we have several sections that use a certain list view, and usually they consist of several sections, and within the sections you have the entries. At the top of the list you usually have this kind of buttons to create a certain sort order. In this case, for example, for the rights we have by date, by distance, by name, and you can even use the search field to filter the entries within the list views for a certain phrase or whatever. And this little hidden feature that I mean is hidden at this button beside the navigation here, and it's about folders. And this is for me really a big thing. Usually a lot of apps ignore this kind of need for folders. So even when Apple started with iTunes or iPhoto, they just have a list, and for me it always looks like they didn't consider people that use their app really extensively, so that there is a need for additional folders to organize your stuff. And this is for me the nice thing in Scenic, that everywhere where you have this kind of list, you also are able to add folders and to organize your elements within these folders. And how it's done, it's quite simple. So you can say, for example, add a folder, you give a folder name, done, save, and then you have a new section in your list, and then you can easily open this one, the menu again, and say organize. And in this case I'm a little bit lazy, I go to the end of the list. You can just drag it, drop it into the other section like this, and so this way I created this additional section right here with the two entries in it. I just revert this, I moved them back in the original list, and in the a new list that you created, you can also use this blue button to again rename your folder, and the red one obviously to delete the folder again. And as mentioned, it's a small thing, but for me it's quite important. Coming to the rights itself, so if we expand the list, we can see I did some test rights during the beta phase of Scenic 2, so I just pick a medium one, and here you can first of all see the basic information about the ride. So the distance of the ride, how long it takes, it's 1 hour 15 minutes, the average speed of the ride, and the vehicle that I used to ride. In the map you can already see a little blue or blue borders on the left and on the right side, and actually this is for not only scrolling the map, because if you just scroll within the map you just move the map, but this blue bars are kind of indicators that the whole screen is also scrollable. In the portrait mode you can see the scroll on the side, so this might be something that still needs to be optimized for the landscape mode. But now you know, as soon as you see the blue bars on the map, then this means the whole screen is still scrollable, not only the map. And if you go to the bottom of the screen, or first of all we just see the tracked route on the map, so this is including starting and end point. And at the bottom of this map view we have 3 buttons, and I will start with the middle one, which calls the statistics of the ride, and they are quite detailed, so you can view the speed profile as well as the elevation profile, and if you click inside of the diagram you will get direct information about this point. So you get this point marked in the map, and as well at the top you see some detailed information especially for this point, and the same thing is working on the speed profile. Going back, second button that I pick will be the right one, which is for exporting this track. In this case it will be really prepared as a GPX file, and then you can use the usual iOS sharing options to send this file around or store it in your files application. Last button is on the left side, this create a route. So in this case it's really taking this track right and turn it into a route again, and in this case it will be opened directly in the edit screen, and as we will have a look at this edit screen in detail in the sections about routes and about importing, so this is why I don't spend any more details on this one right now. So I cancel it and go back to the overview screen, and we scroll on and we see two more sections. So first of all you have the possibility to add an image for this track that you stored, and you can edit the additional information about it. So by default a track gets the title from the date and time when you do the ride without a description. So this is what you can adjust here, and obviously you can select the vehicle that you use to ride. So select from your garage. At the bottom, the usual thing, we have this red X, and it's not for closing, it's really for deleting this track, so take caution on this one, and going back is usually with the back arrow on the navigation element, let's say. And we reach the start screen. So this is usually the screen that you see when you start the Scenic app, and that's meant to be used for just routing to a certain destination. But before we come to this, I just want to add one more info. So if you just like to track your ride and don't navigate, you can do this also from the start screen by just hitting the start button. So as soon as you hit the start button, tracking will be started, and you don't have any route about around you, so just ride, and when you're done you open this button board and then say finish ride, and then finish ride again, and then you usually can save it. In my case the track was too short to save it, but usually if you do a real ride then you will get the information or the dialog box to save your ride. But now let's start with the different options that we have for selecting the target for our navigation. So the easiest way is to just move around your map, find a certain spot that you want to navigate to, maybe zoom in, then just tap on this point where you want to go, and then you can select this as the target for your navigation. There's also an option to set this point as a favorite, so this little star icon, but this is what we will take a look at later on when it comes to your locations. For the moment we just tick the check mark, and then we select this as our destination, and we get immediately a route to this destination. First option. Let me clear this and just try the next one. So if we go to this or hit the destination area right here, we get some more options. First of all, just searching for something. So in this case I use my usual sorry, I need to my usual destination for this kind of tests, search for it, and then you can see you get results from several areas. So you get results from Google search results, from Apple in the end it's Apple Maps, and you get OpenStreetMap results. Obviously for Apple and Google search results you need to be connected to the internet. If you don't have a connection to the internet, then you only get the results from OpenStreetMaps, because this is really searching in your offline maps for this location, for example. And in this case it's always the same destination as it looks like, so it's regardless which one you choose. I just picked the first one from the Google search result. It's the right one. It will be taken as the destination and you get your route. Okay, let's reset it again, do it again, and so the other or the next option in the end is looking for certain POIs. In this case I just picked gas stations, and as you can see it looks in around your current location in a distance of 10 kilometers in my case. I don't know what will it be in the mileage or whatever, but here you just get a list sorted by distance about all the gas stations around you. In an area where you are the certain streets and addresses and so on, this might be helpful, but usually it's quite difficult to understand where it is and what's the best choice. I mean, you can use the distance to the gas station, for example, but the easiest way is just tapping on this little map icon, and then you get all the search results directly marked in your map, and then it's quite easy to take a decision and say, okay, for example, this one is the gas station that I want to use, and then you just need to tick the check mark again. It will be set as your destination and you get a route to this destination. Resetting again, starting all over again, and the next one is locations. So this is actually accessing your locations, which we will take a look at a little bit later on. So here you can usually find your home and work address, your saved favorites, your locations, and even other folders that you created. The custom POI points in this case are not usable right here. It's really just the POIs, the real POIs that you added, or locations that you added. In this case I just select my saved POI for the Bayerische Schanze again, and as you can see, as usual, it will be selected as a target and calculate a route to this point. Resetting again, going again to the destinations, picking the next one, and here you get all your routes that you have planned and stored in your route section, and the same thing, you can just open this one and select one of them. But in this case you can see it's not only a simple destination, it's really the complete route that you planned or selected in this case, including the stops. I reset it again and just have a look at the final option, which is the round trip. And this one is really using the Kurviger.de website algorithm for finding a nice round trip for you. As you can see, I already made my selected my preferences from the Kurviger algorithm. So usually I try to avoid highways, try to avoid the same road, as well as narrow roads and unpaved roads. Then you can just select a Kurviger.de routing level, like fast and curvy, curvy and extra curvy, and you select the destination or a direction in which you want the round trip to go, or let it be selected randomly. In this case I say northeast. You can select the distance, so how long should your round trip be, and then just generate round trip, and then you get a recommendation, let's say from Kurviger.de, which provides lots of waypoints in the background to give you a nice and curvy route that you can just immediately start here. And that's it actually for our options to select the destination. For the routing modes, I will go back to a quite easy one. So I just select one destination, which is my usual one again for testing. And here you can see you also can select your routing mode. So by default, this is efficient, and the nice thing here is that Scenic by default just has this usual classic routing modes, like the fastest one, a short one, and an efficient one. The efficient one try to reduce intersections, for example. Then you have the usual options here, like avoid ferries, tolls and highways. I have enabled avoid highways at the moment, and this usually gives you a quite nice route over land without any highways in it. You can obviously switch this off, and then it also uses the highway, usually faster, but obviously not so scenic. But to get a real nice one, so if we switch on the avoid highways again, this is a quite straightforward route that just skips the highway. But also here you can make use of the Kurviger.de algorithm and just say, okay, please Kurviger, generate a nice route for me, and then you get the usual dialog box. Again, you can see here are still my selections from earlier where we created a round trip. I stay with the regular curvy route and then just say generate curvy route, and now it generates a curvy route just for your or start and destination. So it's a little bit more scenic, hopefully, and hopefully a little bit nicer to ride. But as you can see, you have a direct integration of this nice Kurviger.de algorithm into the Scenic app, and so you get everything that you need. So you have on one hand the usual navigation app routing modes like short and fast, for example, and with the integration of Kurviger you get also the nice scenic and likable rides for motorcycle riders. Next topic on my list is the route section. Initially we find the usual list view with different sections and so on, but we directly want to start with creating a new route. And in this case we have a blank map view in the route editor, and so we can just start to add waypoints in this one. And the easiest way to do it is by, I would say, point and shoot. And funny enough, the marker is looking like a crosshair, so you just move it to wherever you want to place a certain waypoint or stop. And in this case this is usually my start point and it's also my end point, so I directly set this one, saying okay, this is really meant to be like this. And then we can just scroll around, move around the map and set our waypoints, the ones that we would like to have. So in this case I just start, and the easiest way is obviously to do it in the order where or how you want to visit them. So in this case this is my first one. Let's go right here. This should become my second one, like this. Then let's go over here and let's add another, or in this case a stop. And as you can see we just need to move use the other button in this case, and there you can also see at the bottom, you see this is still the third via point, but it's the first stop. So just press this one, we can give it a name and save it, and so we have added our first stop. Then let's just add one more wire point right here, again automatically number 4, and then we have a quite nice round trip. But obviously it doesn't always work as easy as this, and you think, okay, there might be an additional point required between two existing ones, so you want to insert another one. And in this case, you just select a certain point. Let me see, for example, I want to go around here, for example, like this, and then you just need to use the other stop or wire button without the pre-filled number, which is automatically the latest one or the highest one. We take this button, and now the map automatically zooms out a little bit, and you need to select, okay, which is the marker before the point that you want to add this new waypoint. In this case it's number 1, and then you can see it's automatically added in between 1 and 3 now, and it's the new point 2. This way you can add one, but also you can move an existing point around if this doesn't match what you had in mind. For example, let's take this one again. I take it, and here you can see you can either delete it or move it. We used to move, and then just select a new point. In this case I move it like here. This is the new target. Press OK, and then it will be moved to the new location. Beside this let's call it point and shoot mode, you can obviously use the search functionality to add an additional point, and here we have the same thing as before. Let me just type my usual bayerische Schanz like this. Oh, damn it. Search, not cancel, and you get the usual results, so from Google, from Apple, and from OpenStreetMaps. I cancel it in this case. I use search again, and beside the regular search you also have the point of interest search in a radius of 10 kilometers around your position. So in this case again we get first of all a list of gas stations, what I just selected, and again you can use this map icon to just add all the search results into the map, and then it's way easier to determine, okay, which is the stop or whatever that you want to add. And in this case you select this one, and this will automatically move the crosshairs to the location of the stop, and then you can decide if this will become a stop or a wire point. And as it's in between, obviously you need to use this the option without a pre-filled number. So in this case I say this will be a stop, and again you need to select, okay, which one is the marker before, so that it will be entered into the route on the right location. So this way we just added a gas station stop in between two existing points, let's say. And there's one more tip regarding the search functionality with the POIs. So if you search, it says it's a 10 kilometer radius, and if we, for example, check again the gas stations, I zoom out a little, then you can see it's around this position, or which position actually. And the secret is it's always based on the current position of your crosshairs. So and there's also this little function here at the bottom, so you can clear the POIs again, so the search results. And if you completely move this crosshair somewhere else and then call this function, for example the fuel stations, then it's really 10 kilometers around this the current location of the crosshair. So this way you can really determine, even for the POIs, where it should look for, and from where this 10 kilometer radius is taken, let's say. Let's clear this again and have a look at another option that you have under search, and this is your stored location. So how we can deal with the stored location we will see later on. At the moment you can just use them as is. So you have a list, you just select one, and then it's automatically moving the crosshairs to this position, and you can add it as a waypoint or a stop to your route. But there's one more way to use your POIs and or your locations and the personal POI groups that you can create, which we will see also in the next section. And this is by selecting the layers menu in the bottom right corner of the map. So here you can say, okay, you want to see, for example, your personal locations, and in this case they are also added as markers into the map. You can do it the same way. You click on a marker, it will automatically move the crosshairs to this position, and then you can add this one as a stop or a via point. And a similar thing you can do with the custom POI points. In my case I added some so-called, in Germany, Passknacker points. So it's a kind of a little geocaching game for motorcycle riders, and there are quite a lot of these points, and I added them as a personal POI group. And in this case it's exactly the same behavior. So you can select one, the crosshair will automatically move to this position, and then you can add this as a via or a stop to your route. And let's talk about ways to remove some of the waypoints, or maybe all of the waypoints. So one possibility we already have seen, you can just click on a waypoint or a stop, and then you get this little waste bin icon, and you can press it to just delete this one point. You can also delete multiple points, at least if they are directly following each other. So you can use this delete button here on the side, and you select the first one to delete and then the last one to delete, and then you can delete multiple markers at once. And obviously you can completely remove the whole current route and start from scratch by just using this clear icon at the sidebar. Now let's see what other options we have to create a complete new route. In this case I again want to start at my usual starting point. I just said start, or let me just show it to you. We want to use this round trip button on the left side, and for this one we need to have a starting point first. So let's set the starting point to this location, and then we can call the round trip function from kurviger.de. So this is a web planner and a special website that also provides a special methodology to really find the nice route, or a nice route for motorcycle riders. And in this case you can see we have some more options than we have in the usual routing profile. So in my case, my usual settings are: I want to provide highways, I want to avoid to ride the same road twice, avoid narrow roads, and unpaved roads. So these are my basic settings. kurviger.de also provides different routing profiles in general. So we have fast and curvy, curvy and extra curvy. In this case I stay with the regular curvy. You can either select a direction. So in my case I switch from the random one to, for example, southeast. I will set or let the distance of 100 kilometers, and then I just say generate round trip, and then you get a suggestion from kurviger.de for a round trip. And as you can see, this is more or less simply done by setting automatically additional waypoints on the track in this way, yeah, selecting a certain route for you. But this also means this is just a starting point for you, so you can still use all the tools to modify this random route that you get from Kurviger. You can add points, you can remove points, you can add stops on certain locations and so on, and you have all this kind of tools. It's just a recommendation, let's say, or a starting point, and then you can do whatever you want with this route. And there is another way how you can use this Kurviger.de in Scenic. And for this one we just start from scratch again. I completely clear the route, and now I start the other way around. So first of all I start setting my start and end point like this. Then I want to use some of the Passknacker game points of interest, so I add this layer to my map. And then I want to do some of the points. I pick the first one and say, okay, this should be my first stop. It will automatically take the name from this point or point of interest. I just save it. I select the next one, say, okay, will be my next stop, save it. Select the third one, should be my third stop, save it. And this way I already have a little round trip created. But in this case this is just using the default routing options of Scenic, and I can ask Kurviger for a nice suggestion how to best connect these points with each other. So I take this curvy button on the left side. You can see my settings are still there. I still want to go with the regular curvy route from Kurviger.de, and then I just say generate route, and then you get a better suggestion from them regarding more for motorcycle riders, and let's say nice curves and all this kind of hopefully scenic views. And again, all your stops are still there, and it's just added some nice waypoints in between to make sure your route is going into nice and twisty areas, let's say. And again, you have all the options to modify this map again. Just keep in mind, if you now press the curvy button again, it will not give you another suggestion for this one. It will just try to again connect the existing points with the curvy route, let's say, but this will not give you really a different route in this case because it's already the nice one, let's say. So let's take this route and finally go to the step of saving it. So we press the save button, we can give it a certain name, save it, and then it appears in your list of saved routes. From this list you can just watch it again, and here again at the top we have this basic information about the route. It's about 150 kilometers, 2.5 hours to ride, and again we see these blue bars at the side, so we know that there's more to come on the screen, let's say, where we can scroll around. And also on the map view we can already see by default it just shows you the stops that you have planned and hides the waypoints or the vias on your route. This is something that changes, I think, when you switch to the Pro mode, but this is something that we keep for later on when we really on the bike and try to navigate this route. First of all, let's look at the bottom of the map view, and here we have again several buttons. Two of them you should already know. So first of all we can call statistics of the route. In this case obviously it's completely just based on the map data, so we just have the elevation diagram but not the speeding one because we didn't write it yet, but the rest of the stuff is quite the same. We have this sharing option. In this case it's really not the track that is shared, but it's the route with the route points, and we end up in the usual iOS screen to share your GPX file, either by sending it around or storing it in your files. The right button is for going to the edit mode again, so it's the same thing where we edit the route and we can do other modifications and save it. And on the left side, this is the button where we can start to navigate this route. This is what we also keep for later on, when we are really back on the bike. Just let's continue here at the bottom. You can add a picture for this one. This is quite interesting when you say your route should be public. This functionality is not yet available, so I mean you can already set your route to public, but finding public routes is not yet implemented. This is still a feature to come. Also, this reviews button, or review section in this case, really just makes sense as soon as this is a public route and others can add a review to this route that you have published. For example, you can see them, you can add your own review and so on. Finally, we have the section where you can still modify the data of the route, like the name, description, and toggle this mode if it's public or not. You can edit the route points, which sends you back to the routing editor, so it's the same as the button on the map. And we have this functionality to duplicate the route and edit it. So in this case, you have planned the route, you are quite happy with it, but you want to play around a little bit with it without destroying the one that you have already created, and that's fine. So you can just duplicate them, and now you get a new version of this one, and you can do modifications and save it with a new name. I don't do this at the moment, and go back to this details view, and at the bottom we have the usual stuff. You can either delete this one or go back to the list view. And that's it actually for the routing section. We have reached the location section, and in this one you should remember back from the start screen that there's one easy way to add a new location. You can just tap on the map on the start screen, and there you have this little star icon which allows you to add a new location. I call it as usual test, save it, and then this one is automatically stored in your My Locations area. Here you can see test. You can edit this one again where you tap on the map to move it, for example, or you can change the type of this location. So there are obviously two special ones, which is your home address and your work address, and everything else is just favorite, let's say. You can change name and description and the position as well, delete it, or just go back to this list. There's also a button at the bottom of this screen where you can add a location by either by search. So this is the usual stuff that we see. You can search, get the Google results, Apple results, OpenStreetMap results, and set it. You can also use the POIs that you have here, but in this case we really just get the list, not this map view. For this one we have this other option to say select in the map, but then we are just at this usual screen that we saw also on editing, where we then can just tap on the map to select the location, and in the edit section choose the type of location and add some details like name and description. I cancel this one as I have already some locations in my list. As you can see, several I put it in the My Location sections. As usual in this list view you can use this three dots element on the navigation bar to add folders and organize your locations. And there is another type here on the screen of locations, and this is the custom POIs. In my case, I added this, I named it already several times, this Passknacker points that are quite famous in Germany and maybe already in the countries around, as we can see from this list of points. And this custom POIs have some additional features, and to show it to you, just let's add another, or try to add another POI group. You can give a name, you can give a description, and the special thing here is really you can give a alert distance, and this is really a nice feature. So for example, you can set, for example, 500 meters. I just give also a name, the usual test one. Oops. Test like this. You can give a description. We already set this alert distance to 500 meters. We can set a nice emoji for our POI group, and let's just use this one. You select the marker color like that, and then you have a big text field where you should insert the different waypoints in a special format, and the description is shown in this field by default. So you should have first of all the name of the POI, then latitude, longitude, and everything separated by a colon. And actually I did this one, so let me just cancel this one and let's open one of my existing ones. In this case I created this list of POIs by exporting it from the passknacker.com website in a CSV format, then converted it using Excel to have exactly the right format that you need for this field, and pasted it right here. It's one way to do it. I even plan to have a separate video on this one, how to do it, but in the end I found another way where it's way easier to do this one. But for the moment the important stuff is really this alert distance. So this is something that I will show you later on the motorcycle. So on this distance, if you are getting close to the POI or one of the POIs in the list, then in 500 meters distance you will get an audio notification, and then there is also a red bar at the top of the screen notifying you about this upcoming POI until the point where you reach it, and then it disappears again. So it's quite interesting, and as mentioned we will see it later on how it really looks like when you're navigating. And the other possibility to add this kind of POI groups or custom POI groups I will show you in the import section. We reached the final section about import, and for this one I switched to the portrait mode on Scenic as well as to my desktop computer. As usually I try to start with what you can do to plan and transfer files for being imported. And the first thing that we can see is that obviously Scenic doesn't have any online planning tool like, for example, Kalimoto or TomTom with this My Drive app, whatever. There is only this little web app, and to be able to use it we need to log in with exactly the same account that we use on the Scenic app to log in. So in my case it's ruinshot@gmail.com and a password, and I set it to remember because this will ease our life on all the upcoming imports where we try to use this tool. So I log in, and then it just presents these two options what you can do to import files, and it's looking quite primitive, but from my point of view, it's very, very powerful, and I hope I can show it to you. So first option is drag and drop a GPS file, and to create one, my favorite weapon of choice is obviously kurviger.de. This name should ring a bell in the meanwhile for you. So this is actually the tool or the origin of this planned routes or this curvy routes that you will find in Scenic. And I will not cover how you can create a route here in kurviger.de. I have a separate video on this one, so far only in German. So I just prepared a little route, and now let's see how we can transfer this one into the Scenic app. And as I mentioned, the same way as kurviger.de is somehow integrated already in Scenic, there's also a little integration of Scenic in kurviger.de. So if you use the export button right here, then there is this line here or the special field where you can give a certain name. So in my case I set test route from, take it to English, from kurviger.de, and you can simply hit the button send route to Scenic. In this case it will be handed over automatically to this web app, and as we already logged in, it's directly sent. If you are not logged in at this moment, then obviously you get the login screen. You need to first authenticate yourself, and then the route will be sent. Now we can simply switch to the Scenic app, force a reload, and then you can see, okay, here is something in the import queue. So we open this one, we see exactly this test route from kurviger.de has arrived, and we pick it, and then we can see inside of this GPX file there is a track, and we can import this track. And then what happens is Scenic tries to rebuild the sent track as a route using the internal routing. It found some possible routing errors. We can view them. I don't really see an issue, so I say ignore, and then we can zoom into the full map, and we can see the sent track from Scenic is now really shown completely here, and if you zoom in you will see it. The track is marked by this blue dotted line, while the red line shows what Scenic has tried to rebuild from this track using the internal routing and the waypoints that are sent from the kurviger.de app. In this case you can check, okay, here's a point where the route is different from the one that's sent by the track, but here you would be able to send additional waypoints to fix it. I won't do it here in this case, but we will do it later on for other imports. The big benefit that you can see here is that really all the information are sent. So we have all the stops. I switch to the kurviger website again, close this one, so we can see all the stops that we planned here in our route are also transferred into Scenic, and we have this initial additional waypoints to make sure that the route is exactly following the track. This one you would be able to save, but once you saved it, then the track information is gone, and it's really just the route from this automatic conversion. You also have the option here to save the blue line. So this means you really save the track, and there is already a kind of a notification saying, okay, in this case you have just limited functionality. Let's close this import and delete it from the import queue so it's empty again, and we can just go to the routes where it's now visible in our section. So here's our test route, and you can see it's a green dotted line, so it's really a track that is imported now. No waypoints, no stops, and if you start this one you have also just limited functionality regarding blocking roads or something like this, or skipping a stop because there are no stops. It's really just this track. In the end, it's not really what we are looking for. I guess we really want to have a route that we can properly navigate. So let's see what else we can do to import stuff into Scenic. And for this, I just used the other option in kurviger.de to export a file, and this is a regular export of a GPX file. And Kurviger supports all kind of information that you can store even in one GPX file. So you can store the route, you can store the waypoints and the track inside of one GPX file. And I really want to show that Scenic is supporting all this kind of elements stored in a GPX file. So we store all this information in one file, just save it, it will be automatically downloaded, and then we can think about, okay, how we can transfer this file to Scenic. The first option obviously would be to just use the Dropbox or the iCloud drive, or maybe send it via email, and this obviously works. So let's just switch to the device again. I will open my iCloud drive. In this case, it's not the route that I just sent or saved from Kurviger, it's another one that I already have on my iCloud drive. I can click on it, you can say share this one, and then you get the usual interface from iOS, and then you can select the app that you want to send it to. In this case, we copy it to Scenic, and Scenic automatically starts to import the file. You get it in the import queue, you can say import, and then again we have this route. We can view the import errors here. There is obviously something where we should check if it's the right thing. For the moment I just ignore it, and you can see here there is my imported route from this file. It's just one way to do it, but there's actually, I think, an even simpler way to transfer it into Scenic. And for this one I will cancel again, close this one, I don't save it again, I cancel this one from the import queue, and we are back at the import screen. And for this one now we go back to the Scenic web app, and now we really pick this option to say, okay, we want to transfer a GPX file. So here at the bottom you can see a variety of files is supported: GPX, KML, KMZ, and even the TomTom files are supported. And all you need to do is take the downloaded file, drag and drop it onto this field, and it will be automatically sent to Scenic. So very easy. And on the device we just force a reload. We see there is something in the import queue. Open this one, it's our Kurviger test. We open it and we can see there are all elements in. So we have the route, we have the track, and we have the waypoints. So let's start from the top. Let's import the route. In this case it's just the stops that are taken in the right order, so that Scenic understands, okay, this should be really a route. But in this case the internal Scenic routing is responsible for connecting the different waypoints in this case. So you can see there's no blue dotted line that you can have or can use as a reference to check if it's really the route that kurviger.de proposed to you. And there could be differences, but you can see it. So if you are fine with this one, then you can just save this route, or you can even modify it, add additional wire points or whatever. In this case it's one option. The other option, we cancel this one, close it. Okay, we still have our import in the import queue, so we go on with the next one. We take the track sent from the GPX file. And in this case, now you can see it's really, you have this blue dotted line as a reference. This is the track that is sent from Kurviga. You have the waypoints that make sure that the routing from Scenic really follows the same line, and you can check, for example, here you can see there is a difference, and in this case you can use all the tools that you have or you are already aware of from the routing section that we showed before. So add a wire point, it should be after point 20, and now we have fixed this one, so now it's completely following this line. So you have all the options again to modify this one. Once you are done, you can save it, but then again it's only the red line with the waypoints that it's saved, not the blue one by default. And the backside of this option is obviously that the stops are not sent. So if we take the reference again from Kurviga, we can see that our planned stops here are not transferred to this one. So this is definitely the benefit of using this direct built-in function sent to Scenic in Kurviga, because in this case you really have the stops and wire points to make sure this the route is exactly following the track that is proposed by Kurviga.de. You can fix it, you have a reference line where you can do some adjustments and so on, and you still have all the tools to enhance this kind of stuff. And last but not least, we can close it again, go back, and then we see we also have the waypoints, and even they can be imported. So we just select 3 of them, for example. I say import, I want to import the 3 waypoints, and now we can decide if we want to have a location or a POI group. In this case I just use a POI group. We can call this simply test Kurviga, like this. Done, save it. Okay, and now we finally close this file content. We delete it from the queue, go back to the list, and now let's check what has been imported. So we go to the locations, we can see there is this new section test Kurviga, and here are our 3 waypoints. The drawback here is again that the points don't have a proper name. It's just automatically 1, 2, 3 and so on. So it's not the nicest way, but there are better ways, and this will be shown next. Actually, first of all I will clean up a little and then we check the other option. So we are back at the Scenic web app, and here we can see there is another option, and this says okay, copy and paste a Google Maps URL, and this is really as easy as it sounds. So we go to Google Maps, for example, we add a certain route, we say start routing from here. I select the destination, my usual suspect, which is Bayerische Schanz. I even can change the options, say okay, I want to prevent or avoid the highway. We can even do some modifications to the route, so say okay, this should be covered as well as this road right here. So we have even some adjustments in it, and then all we need to do is copy the URL of this page, go to the Scenic web app, say copy and paste URL. We paste the URL here in the first field, give it a proper name, Google Maps route. I don't give a description, and we say send to Scenic. It's sent. Now we can switch to the device, force a reload. We see there is something in the import queue. We see the file Google Maps route, and there it is, and we can import this one, and the same thing. We have the route with a reference line that really shows exactly, and let me switch here, exactly the route as planned, no highways. Our 2 additional detours are included, everything is in. We have the blue dotted line as a reference to check it, and we can see here there are some differences. We can add an additional waypoint right after here. That was the wrong one, so I can even do undo. I need to do it the other way around. I set a waypoint, this one, and obviously it needs to be after that. And again, we fixed it right here, and this route we can save in our usual list. And this is even just the beginning, so it not only works with the simple Google Maps URLs. Let me clean it again. We close this one, we delete it from the import queue, go back to the list, and we switch back to the computer. And as mentioned, it's not only working with simple routes in Google Maps, it's also working with the My Maps from Google. So for example, here I created a map where I try to remember some of the biker meeting points, let's say. I just added them here in a personal Google map, and even for this one you can take it right here, copy the URL, go to the Scenic web app, we go back, paste the URL, give it a name, no description, we send it to Scenic, it's done. We can switch to the device, force a reload, import it in something in the import queue. It's the Google biker meeting points. Here we have them. We can say select all, import, and then in this case I will do it as a location again. We can also import this as a POI group, but let's stick with the location. Done, save. Okay, we can cancel it, delete it from the import queue, going back, and now let's see, and we have the biker meeting points right here, and this time we even have the nice names that we configured in the Google map or in this personal Google map. So this is one easy way. You could also include this as a POI group, but I have a better example for this one, so I keep it for later. I just want to show one more thing in the with the Google Maps. So this was a quite easy one with just some points of interest in it, but this also really works with quite complex maps. So if we see here, this is for example for our the route from our last motovlogger meetup. I have a track in it, so this is the tour that we did the day. I have several points of interest into this one, so the stops that we did, gas stations and hotels to use, and so on. So all kind of informations in one map, and even here we can just copy the URL, go to the Scenic web app, go back, paste the URL, give it a name. This was the name of our meetup, for example, and send to Scenic. Again, switch to the device, reload, we see something in the import queue. It's our meetup file, and here it is. Everything is in, so the track is in and all the waypoints that are listed somehow in this map. And again, we can store the track and ask Scenic to recreate it. We can import this point of interest either as locations or as personal POI groups, and you can see you have a really fancy tool with this simple Scenic web app where you can deal with almost all the GPS files as well as Google Maps URLs. And there's just one thing left that I want to show. Let me go back. And this is really a quite known one in at least Germany. I think even already it's becoming quite popular in EMEA in general, or in Europe in general. And this is this passknacker.com page. It's a kind of a game where you can visit certain nice points of interest, and you make a image of your bike at this point with a certain kind of a proof poster to make sure that you visited in the exact year, and then you collect points and there is a ranking and all this kind of stuff. But even if you don't participate in this game, it's quite interesting to have this point of interest, because almost all of them are quite nice spots for riding your motorcycle. So we can go to the downloads page of Passknacker, and here, for example, I already imported some of them, like the ones for Germany and the ones for Austria. So let's add the ones for Switzerland. So I select Switzerland. I want to have all of them as a GPX file. I download them, and again I can simply go to the Scenic web app. In this case I need to go back to the one where I can drag and drop a file. Let me just do this. And on this page we can simply again call drag and drop. We just take the downloaded file, send it to Scenic, and we can switch to the device. We have in the import queue, open it, and then there are quite a lot of waypoints in it, or points of interest. We can say select all, import. It's 386, import them, and this is really something for a POI group. And now you can see here are all of them, so it's way easier. This is what I mentioned when I covered this topic regarding the personal POI group. It's easier to get it this way via a GPX file that you send via the Scenic web app, instead of preparing all these waypoints in the right format in a text file or whatever and then paste it into this field. You can still say, okay, this is Passknacker CH, for example, for Switzerland, CH. No description. I will want to have a pre-warning 500 meters ahead. I use this marker, and as you can see here on the website, somewhere at least, the mascot of Passknacker is this kind of a bulldog or whatever it is. Unfortunately I don't have the emoji for this one, so I take this cute little puppy. Blue is fine for me. Done. Save it. And then we can close this file and remove it from the import queue. And now we can go back to our locations. We see custom POIs. We have now also the ones for Switzerland in it. And if we go now to the route section, create a new one, add this layer to the map, then we can see in the meanwhile it's quite a lot. We have more than 1,000 points now on the map, and now you can see here we have the ones for Germany, for Austria and Switzerland in the meanwhile on the map. So always a nice spot to find where you can drive through. And that's it. So hopefully you have seen that as primitive this tool looks like, the Scenic web app, for sending some information to the Scenic app, as powerful it is. So you should have really all the tools at hand to properly plan a route and take whatever file you find with information about the route, a track or waypoints, whatever, send it to Scenic and then do something for your own planning with it. And that's finally the end of the description that we need to do here on the computer and on the device. And now we can finally switch to the motorcycle and really ride some of the routes that we have planned so far.
So here we are, finally back on the bike, and it's time to really use all the stuff that we have seen so far and the routes that we planned to use it for navigation. And the first way to call one of our routes is obviously going to the route section. My routes, I prepared some here for demonstration, and as you can see we are at the moment in the regular wire point mode, so we just see the stops and not the wire points. And in this view you can just click on this compass arrow thing to load it. The other way is going to the start section, selecting a target, and also in the search area we have our routes. We can use it and then it's directly loaded. For this demonstration, I use a route instead of simply saying, okay, from here I want to navigate somewhere, because I want to show you the start behavior, let's say. The default one is that Scenic tries to route you to the starting point. At the moment it looks a little bit more crazy than it really is. This is more or less the point that I just stopped here and then started Scenic, and so the compass doesn't really have a direction. He thinks I stand in a different position, whatever. The point is, it will by default guide you to the starting point, and as you are driving into this direction, it don't want to turn you around, so it makes this little loop to finally get on the track. But there are other options to start a route. As mentioned, start point is the default one, but there's also closest point. In this case, it doesn't really make a difference because the closest one is the start point. And this is really an important lesson from my side. So never just press the button, say start, and hope that this device will do everything the correct way. Always have a look, because the starting point could also be way more back in this direction, whatever. So if you keep it at the start point, and the closest one could still be the one behind you, and so it will guide you back on the route, then turn you around, and then send you to the original direction. So always make use of this preview, check, and then decide on your own. And for this one you even have two more options. The other one is no thanks, and in this case, in the end, it doesn't do anything. It's just showing you are here, there's the route, and then get there on your own. And as soon as you are getting closer to the route, it starts the navigation and guide you on whatever point you reach the route in the end. This is the thing that I want to show you in a minute, but first of all I want to show you the last option, and this is actually my preferred one. So you can select which via point or stop you want to use, and then you might see, okay, there is something different. So in this view, and this is quite a nice thing, I think, you will see even the via points, even if you are in the regular mode and normally didn't see it. Here you can see it, and then you can easily select, okay, this is the via point that I want to start with, and then you directly get the directions to this point, and then you can see all this craziness is gone and you are directly on your way to this route. But as mentioned, for the moment I want to show you the no thanks, that this is working. So as soon as you hit the route, then it will start the navigation. So I start this one, and before I really go on, I want to show you what options do you have during the ride. So there are several tools, and the first one is this big dashboard with buttons, and there's one new thing compared with the beta version. So you have a timeout for it. It will close automatically, which is quite nice during riding, but at the moment for me explaining, it's a little bit difficult, but let's do it. First row, you have two shortcuts that you can configure with your own ones. Usually it was 3, but one has been removed for settings. Means you can even during the navigation call the settings, change some of the settings, like show the zoom buttons or whatever, or changing the behavior, all this kind of stuff. Second row is for all kind of media control, so play, pause, next and previous, and the line below, and I just wait for the next timeout. The row below is for all your voice commands or instructions, so can mute the voice, increase or decrease the volume. Next row is for everything regarding the view, so you can switch to the map always north direction. By default the map used to follow your driving directions. The next one is switching from 2D 3D to 2D mode and vice versa, and you can lock the screen orientation. So in case you are heavily hitting the twisties, let's say, it might be that your application is flipping around, and with this button you can fix it in a certain direction. This one is to completely stop your route and stop the recording of your tracking, let's say. And the next one is you can completely remove the current route to start from scratch, and this one is skip next stop. And this is really important. As long as you are in the normal mode regarding via points, then it's really the next stop that is removed. It's not the next via point that is just not shown but there. So you will really skip quite a lot of your route if you do this. In the Pro mode, this is really via or stop, whatever comes next. Then we have a nice feature for roadblock, where you can mark a certain stretch of the road ahead as being blocked, and then Scenic tries to find a way around it. Then you have the overview, and here you can manually close the dash panel, whatever. And here the overview, this is where you see first of all the route that is still ahead of you, and you can do still some additional activities right here. And this is exactly the same thing that you get, or not almost exactly the same thing, when you just swipe here in the normal navigation map. You also reach here, but if you reach it via the map screen, then you just see your current location, and then you need to press this button again to see the full route ahead of you. There is also this button where you can switch into this list view mode. I will come to this in a second. And you have the search item where you can search for additional stops that you want to add to your route. You can do a regular search or this POI search, and you can also use your stored locations for this one. Yes, this one is quite hard to reach with the gloves. I don't know why. There it is. And this list view you also reach on the navigation screen when you just touch this small statistics. Here you can pause the navigation, you can finish it completely, which is actually the same as this finish right. And you can take a photo, and this photo will be attached to your track recording at the correct position, let's say. And you have some kind of statistics regarding your ride. And that's it for the moment. So I think we are ready to start and hit the road. So now we are almost reaching the route ahead of us. You can see the green line, which is our track recording, and normally now it should jump in, and here it is, and start navigating us. So now I try to bother Scenic a little and turn into the wrong direction. So in this case I should get a notification that there is a recalculation, and as I'm using this go back mode with override, means I should also get the possibility hitting a button and then ask him to recalculate the route. So instead of going back, just find another route to my next stop. There it is. And if you press this button, you even get a selection saying, okay, do you want to skip the next point, yes or no? In my case I say no, but you can also skip it. But keep in mind, in this case, if you are in the regular mode, it really stops your next stop, not a via point that you have in between. And for example, for my route, it's only this one, and it skips the stops together with all the via points that were before and that I usually set to follow a certain route, let's say. So this is something that you should keep in mind in this case. But there's one more difference that you see, or that I want to show you regarding stops and vias and this pro mode. But for this one I have another yeah, location where I can show you some more features.
Test POI is close by.
So here you can see already how this custom POI groups are notified. So you get a voice notification as well as a little indicator at the top of the screen. But I'm also at the point where I want to show you some other feature.
Now turn left onto Endlich.
And for this one I switch off because it takes a second. So we simulate a behavior or a situation where this road to the left, that is usually our route, is closed. There is a road construction, whatever. And for this one we have this nice little feature, roadblock. You press it and you say, for example, for 250 meters. And in this case you can see we get a nice new route to follow. And in this case you need to be aware that as long as you are in this default wire point mode where you can see the wire points, Scenic tries to do its best to really handle the whole stuff for you. So it decides on its own to skip a wire point or keep it. It always tries to keep it, but this could be also a little drawback, and this is what we can see here. So if we go to the overview, you can see, oh, what happens here. So it still tries to keep our two hidden wire points, and this is what you get. So this little circle, and a lot of times this might not be the case. Sometimes it's even just one point that's still left on the old route, and you get just something like, okay, you go here, go to the point, turn around and back to the route. And as this is just a wire point, so it's obviously no stop, you would for sure prefer to skip it. But what happens now if you, for example, say, okay, I want to skip the next stop this one, yeah? So it not only skips this section, it also skips this one right here, and this is maybe the one that you still want to keep. And you see, this is a little bit of an issue when you are in the regular mode. So on one hand, the application tries to do everything it can to keep all the stuff away from you, but this could happen. And if you now try to get around this, then yeah, in this case, in my demo route, it might be not so important. It would be still the same thing. But in other situations, you can end up with a completely different route. But there is a little trick around this, even in this regular mode. And this is, you may have just seen it, the possibility that you can still add additional points to the route during navigation. And one easy way to do it is just tapping on the map. There it is, and then you decide, okay, I want to add this one to the route, and then you just need to decide, okay, which is the stop before the new one. Then in our case it's our current location, and look at this, we add a new point, and in this case this hidden wire points are ignored and removed. And if you like, you can even press again on this button and remove it, only this one there, sorry, this one, and remove it. There it is, it's gone, and now you just have this one point. But as you can see, there are some troubles with this one. It's nice if you keep it quite easy for you, but this doesn't keep you away from really always checking in the overview if there's a recalculation and checking if everything is still fine. And just to show you what's the difference, I now want to switch into the wire point mode, or the pro mode. For this one, I just stop it here, finish right, ignore it. We want to go to the settings, there they are, and I go to navigation and tracking, and here via mode pro I enable this one, and now we go back to the start again. We load
the demo route. Here it is, and I just say ignore it, I'm already on it. And no, sorry, and press start. So, and you have already seen it a little bit in the overview, and let me call it back. There it is. So in this case you really see all the wires in between. And now let's use this function again, roadblock 250 meters. And now you get the nice detour for this one. Yeah, quite fine. If we take a look, we have the same issue, but in this case we can just tip on it, remove it, tip on that one, remove it, and we are fine. And this is a quite easy way to really handle it, and actually this is for me my preferred way. I usually want to see all the stops, all the wire points, and so I can easily modify the map to my needs even during navigation. And as you have seen already, you are able to even add additional points. First of all, just by tapping on the map, adding a point, or you can use the search, and there you have the usual stuff. So you can use the search field, usual results, Google, Apple, and OpenStreetMap. Google and Apple obviously only if you have an internet connection, but you also have, for example, your fuel stations, and you can again put it in the map, so you can easily add it right here. So I click on this one, say okay, this I want to add to the route. Again, I need to check, okay, which should be the point where I want to add this one, and I say it's after this. And in the Pro mode you can select if it's a stop or a wire point. So in this case, for a fuel stop, it makes sense to have a real stop in it. And that's it. So way more possibilities from my point of view. So for me it's definitely the preferred one. And yeah, that's the stuff that I want to show you right here. The only two things left is really to show you the handling when you reach a stop, and when, or the notifications about a stop, and when you really reach one of the custom POI points. So now we are getting close to our stop, and we should get a audio notification right here, and you get a notification on top of the screen, and usually this disappears automatically. And now it's on your turn if you want to stop here or just go on. So last topic is our custom POI point group, whatever that we configured to give you an alert at a certain distance, and usually this should come up as a voice alert.
Demo is close by.
And as a visual notification at the top of the screen, and this should stay until you have reached this POI point. So let's check it. So you see I just put it somewhere on the road, but as soon as you reach it, then the notification will be removed. And that's it actually. That are the parts that I want to show you. I hope I covered all the important stuff to really get you started with Scenic. And that's it. You really made it to the end of this video. So for everyone who really watched the whole video, thumbs up. And I hope all of you also have a thumbs up for me. I just hope that I covered all the important stuff. I guess it should be almost everything. There are still some bits and pieces that are left, but I guess you will figure out on your own. And yeah, that's it from my side. I can just wish you all the best navigating using Scenic, and then my usual saying that I still didn't translate: übertreibt's nicht und genießt den Scheiß, und dann hoffentlich bis zum nächsten Mal. Bye.